Marcus was well known for being stubborn and obstinate because his father was a very wealthy politician with a lot of influence and connections, even within the police force. Everyone had warned him not to urinate on the strange stone located at the side of the road, but Marcus, who claimed to be bold and didn't believe in supernatural phenomena, was convinced that his father's wealth could protect him from anything. The university he attended had organized an excursion to UCHE, a renowned village located in the eastern part of the country. Marcus could have taken a flight, but the professor insisted that each student board the bus provided because the questions for their final exam would be drawn from everything they experienced on the way to the village and the cave. The journey from their starting point was supposed to take 2 days, so they would leave as early as possible. Marcus and his best friend Thomas sat together on the bus, talking and joking at the beginning of the trip. However, at noon on the second day, the driver stopped at the side of the road near the village they were going to join so that the students could stretch their legs and relieve themselves. Everyone got off the bus. Some used the public toilets provided while others entered a nearby restaurant to eat, but Marcus was too proud. He found that the public toilets were not to his liking, so he walked a few meters away from the bus into a nearby forest to relieve himself. Other boys followed him. As he was about to urinate in the forest, an old man appeared as if by magic. This is a sacred forest, the resting place of Abattoir, the most evil and vicious traditional healer of this village. Save your lives and leave here immediately, the man shouted in a tone that sounded like a warning. The other boys quickly fled from the forest, followed by Thomas and Marcus. But when they returned to the bus, Marcus began to laugh out loud. "Don't tell me you believe that man. He's probably in his field and doesn't want you to urinate here," he said. However, the other boys were not convinced and told Marcus many stories about how dangerous this area was, but Marcus didn't believe them. On the contrary, he announced to them that he would return to this forest to urinate and that nothing would happen to him. The other boys mocked him and encouraged him to try. Thomas tried to warn Marcus that his actions could have consequences, but Marcus replied, "I'm going to prove to you that there is no heaven or hell, no God or Satan. You should bet on it. I'm going to go into this forest to urinate and nothing will happen to me." The other boys put forward money, challenging him. "If you can urinate in this forest and remain the same after 3 months, then you can keep our money," said one of them. Marcus burst out laughing, took their money, and entered the forest to urinate. They tried to stop him, but he pushed Thomas away and went deeper into the woods. He looked around and saw a strange stone with inscriptions carved on it. He approached it and urinated on the stone. Once he had finished, he returned to the bus with a wide malicious smile on his face. "I told you, nothing will happen to me. Don't let yourself be trapped by all these superstitions," Marcus told them. One of the boys promised him that he wouldn't survive 3 months, but Marcus mocked his words. "Even your so-called God in heaven can't do anything against me since he doesn't exist," he replied, laughing again. They all got on the bus and resumed their journey. As the bus was rolling on the road, Marcus fell into a deep sleep and had a very frightening dream. In this dream, it was very late and Marcus found himself in the same forest where the old man had advised him not to urinate. It was very dark and he couldn't see anything. Suddenly, he felt a strong urge to urinate, a pressure he couldn't control. Marcus quickly undid his fly and began to urinate. While he was urinating, many children suddenly appeared in the forest as if by magic, pointing fingers and mocking him. Marcus didn't understand what was happening and couldn't stop urinating even under their mocking gaze. Suddenly he woke up and discovered that all the students on the bus were in front of him. Apparently, Marcus had urinated on himself during his sleep, and the smell was so strong that everyone had noticed. Marcus was deeply ashamed and very embarrassed. All the students began to laugh at him, just like the children in his dream. When they finally arrived at the village of UCHE, it was already night. Marcus checked into the hotel with his friend Thomas, washed, and changed. However, that night Marcus had the same dream again. Upon waking, he found Thomas in front of him. Marcus had urinated on himself again and had soiled the hotel bed. Everything was permeated with an unpleasant smell. Marcus told Thomas about the dream he had, but Thomas began to laugh. "I advised you not to urinate in that forest, but you refused. Now look what's happening to you. Try to make sure this doesn't happen again the next time you find yourself in this situation," Thomas advised him. But these words didn't change Marcus's condition at all. When the students visited the village of UCHE, Marcus began to feel very tired. He got on the bus to take a short nap, but when he woke up, he discovered once again that he had urinated on himself. Marcus became very worried because he knew this wasn't normal. He realized his mistakes and regretted not listening to the other students when they had warned him not to urinate in the forest. Looking for a solution, Marcus met one of the boys with whom he had bet. He got on his knees and begged him to help. I thought you didn't believe in the existence of God. Didn't you say that your father's wealth could save everything? The boy named Derek said to him. Helpless, Marcus didn't answer anything, just begged him because it seemed that Derek was a native of the village. After insisting for a while, Derek agreed to help Marcus. In the middle of the night, Derek led him and Thomas to the heart of the forest. It was very dark. The forest was dense and terribly silent. Without their flashlight, they would have seen nothing. They walked for a long time until they arrived in front of a small hut lit by an oil lamp. Marcus and Thomas were terrified. They wondered how such a hut could be in the middle of the forest and who could possibly live there. Their concern also grew towards Derek, not understanding how he knew this place. Arriving in front of the hut, Derek asked them to enter, but they were frightened. However, they realized they had no choice. Marcus took the first step, but as he was about to enter, a deep and powerful voice shouted, "Remove your shoes before the gods strike you down." Marcus immediately removed his shoes, and Thomas did the same. They bent down and entered the dark hut, lit only by a candle. Inside they saw an old man who seemed blind, his eyes being covered with a red cloth. The man asked them to sit on a mat on the floor. "Please sir, we need your help," Marcus said in a trembling voice. "And you, Thomas?" The man replied in a deep voice, pointing at Thomas. "No, he's just my friend. I only accompanied him to find a solution," Thomas answered, shocked that the man knew his name. The old man burst into hysterical laughter. "You were warned several times, but you didn't listen. You had the audacity to urinate on the tomb of the most dangerous and cruel healer in this region." Marcus immediately fell to his knees and begged the blind old man. "I'm sorry, sir, I was stubborn. I should have listened. Please help me. I'm ready to do anything." Thomas knelt beside him and also begged for him. The old man asked them to sit down, made strange incantations, and shook his head with disappointment. He looked at them again and said, "This man's spirit is very angry with you. You were lucky to come see me now, otherwise you would have died in 3 days. There is only one thing you can do to save your life, but it is very, very difficult." Marcus and Thomas looked at each other in silence, then lay on the floor, begging the old man to tell them what needed to be done to save Marcus's life. They promised him they were ready for anything. After a few minutes, the blind old man asked them to sit down again. He took a deep breath and told them, "Your mind decided to be stubborn, but it was the part of your body between your legs that acted. To save your entire body, you will have to sacrifice either your ability to give birth or your ability to urinate." Marcus and Thomas remained dumbfounded, unable to believe what they were hearing. Marcus couldn't imagine sacrificing his reproductive organs, being the only son of his parents. He also couldn't give up his ability to urinate. He begged the blind old man to find another solution, but he told them it was the only way to save his life and that he only had a few days to decide. Then he asked them to leave the hut and come back once the decision was made. Before leaving, the old man added that it didn't have to be Marcus's organ. He could bring someone else's organ in his place. They thanked him and left the hut. Back at the hotel, guided by Derek, Marcus couldn't stop thinking about the old man's words. Unlike him who came from a very wealthy family, Thomas was from a poor family and was the eldest of 6 children. His entire family depended on him to survive, and his parents had sold everything to finance his studies. Thomas was friends with Marcus mainly for the financial help he got from it, often helping him with his homework and exams in exchange for money. The next morning, as Thomas was waking up, Marcus asked him for a private discussion. "You heard what the blind old man said. You know I'm the only son of my parents. I need to be able to have children," Marcus told him. Thomas nodded, confused and not understanding why Marcus was reminding him of all this, given that he was present during the old man's words. "Can you sacrifice your own reproductive organ for me? I promise to pay you as much money as you want. You have many brothers and sisters. I'm sure your parents won't worry about it," Marcus asked him boldly. Thomas remained in shock, filled with anger and disappointment, unable to believe that Marcus could ask him such a thing. "But I warned you not to urinate in that forest," Thomas exclaimed. "I know, but it's already done. Will you do it for me, yes or no?" "I'll give you enough money to get your family out of poverty," Marcus replied, full of pride and without the slightest remorse. Disappointed, Thomas walked away without a word, but Marcus wasn't worried about it. "I'm sure he'll come back to beg me for that money," he said to himself, leaving as well. The first day passed and Thomas refused to speak to Marcus, which deeply anguished him. He knew his fate depended on Thomas's decision. In his fear, he went to see Derek, the one who had told him about the powerful healer, and offered him a large sum of money to offer his organs to the gods in his place. Derek categorically refused, even going so far as to insult him. As the seer had predicted, Marcus died in his sleep, and only Derek and Thomas knew the real reason for his death. They kept it to themselves and continued their lives. After school, Thomas got a very good job and got his family out of poverty, and he lived happily ever after. The moral lesson of this story reminds us to educate our children to be respectful and humble, no matter how rich they become in the future. Perhaps Thomas would have helped Marcus if he had asked him humbly. Wherever you are, always respect local culture and traditions. Don't despise any culture or tradition. Money can solve many problems, but it cannot solve everything in life. Being rich doesn't make you invincible. If Marcus had had a different mentality, he wouldn't have urinated there even after being warned several times, because he thought he could solve all problems with money. No matter your current situation, always be optimistic that tomorrow can and will be better. If Thomas hadn't been optimistic about his future, he would have sold his organs for peanuts.